The auctioneer's voice echoed through the estate tent. And the final item, Lot 47, the old stable building and surrounding half-acre. Do I hear 5,000? Silence. Then laughter. Come on, someone muttered. That thing's one strong wind from collapse. But that was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks earlier, Lauren pressed her forehead against the steering wheel of her 15-year-old Civic, parked outside the apartment she could no longer afford. The notice was clear: 30 days to vacate. Rent had jumped from $1,200 to $1,850. Market rate adjustment, the landlord called it. Legal in this city. Devastating for a woman making $16.50 an hour doing data entry from a coffee shop because she couldn't afford home internet. Her phone showed $89.32 in checking. Her savings account had been drained 4 months ago when the furnace in her last apartment died, and the landlord refused to fix it. She'd paid for a space heater and burned through her emergency fund, keeping warm through February. Inside the apartment, everything she owned fit in 12 boxes. No furniture. It had all belonged to Marcus, her ex-husband, who'd kept it when he left. Kept everything except the debt, which he'd generously let her shoulder alone. Her phone buzzed. A text from her sister Vanessa. Estate auction Saturday for Uncle Jim's stuff. You coming? There's supposed to be some valuable things. Lauren hadn't seen Uncle Jim in a decade. He'd been her father's brother, a bachelor farmer who lived alone on 60 acres outside town. She remembered visiting once as a kid, the sprawling farmhouse, the red barn, the smaller stable building where he'd kept 2 horses. She checked her bank account again. Bus fare to the auction, $14 round trip. She'd have to skip lunch tomorrow to make it work. I'll be there, she texted back. The auction was held in a white tent on Uncle Jim's property. Lauren arrived to find her sister and brother already circling the merchandise tables like sharks. Vanessa wore designer sunglasses and carried a leather purse that cost more than Lauren's car. Their brother Todd had brought his wife, both of them in golf attire, fresh from the country club. Lauren, Vanessa air-kissed near her cheek. You look tired. Are you still doing that computer thing? Data entry, yeah. Well, some of us are built for ambition, some for stability. Vanessa smiled, sharp as glass. Todd and I have our eye on the real prizes. The farmhouse is going to an investor, but the antique furniture, the grandfather clock, the tool collection, those should bring nice money. I thought we were dividing things, not selling. Todd laughed. Uncle Jim's will says the estate gets liquidated and split 3 ways. We get equal cash, but we can bid on items if we want them. I'm getting that John Deere tractor. Collector's item. The auctioneer began. Lauren watched her siblings bid aggressively on everything. The mahogany dining set, for $1,200. The antique tools, $1,800. A collection of vintage mason jars, $340. Each time the hammer fell, Vanessa or Todd smirked in her direction, daring her to compete. Lauren had $89.32. She bid on nothing. Then came Lot 47. Folks, this is the old stable building on the western edge of the property. Structure is roughly 80 years old, needs significant repairs. Roof's intact, but the walls need work. Comes with the half-acre it sits on. Could be demolished for the land value. Could be renovated. Starting bid, $5,000. Silence. Come on now, half an acre this close to town? For $1,000. More silence. Someone laughed. That thing's a death trap. $3,000. Anyone? It's buildable land. Lauren raised her hand. The auctioneer blinked. I have $3,000. Do I hear 4? Vanessa leaned over, whispering harshly. Lauren, what are you doing? You can't afford that. You can't even afford rent. $3,000 going once. You don't have $3,000. Going twice. You're going to buy a collapsing barn? Are you insane? The hammer fell. Sold to bidder 47 for $3,000. Todd stared at her. How are you planning to pay for that? Estate proceeds get distributed after the auction, Lauren said quietly. Uncle Jim's attorney said the estate's worth about $100,000 after debts. We each get a third. Minus what I just spent, I'll still clear $30,000. You just wasted 10% of your inheritance on a building that's going to cost $15,000 to demolish. Vanessa's voice rose. We got actual valuables. You got a liability. Lauren signed the paperwork in the attorney's office, her hands shaking. She'd bought a half-acre in a crumbling stable with money she hadn't seen yet. If the building was unsalvageable, She'd spent $3,000 on land she'd have to sell immediately to cover her rent. She drove out to see it that evening. The stable sat at the edge of Uncle Jim's property, separated from the main farmhouse by an overgrown field. It was larger than she remembered. 2 stories, the upper level a hayloft accessible by an exterior staircase that looked ready to give way. The padlock on the main door was rusted shut. Lauren walked around the perimeter, peering through gaps in the weathered wood. Inside was darkness and the smell of old hay. She climbed the exterior stairs carefully, testing each step. The hayloft door was chained, but the wood around the lock was rotted. She pulled, and the entire lock plate came free. The door swung open. Inside, the loft was surprisingly intact. Hay bales lined the walls, covered in decades of dust. But in the center of the room, illuminated by a shaft of evening light through a high window, sat something that didn't belong. A four-safe, commercial grade, sealed with a combination lock. And beside it, propped against the wall, a yellowed envelope with her name written in Uncle Jim's handwriting. Lauren's heart hammered as she knelt and picked it up. Lauren's fingers trembled as she opened the envelope. The paper inside was brittle, the ink faded but legible. Lauren, if you're reading this, you chose the stable. I hoped you would. Your sister wants status. Your brother wants toys. But you've always seen potential where others see problems. That's why you get the real inheritance. The combination is your birthday backwards, August 17th, 1989. What's inside has been waiting for you since you were 8 years old. I'm sorry I couldn't explain while I was alive. Some gifts are best discovered, not given. Trust yourself. Don't let them tell you what's valuable. Uncle Jim. Lauren's birthday, August 17th, 1989. Backwards, August 17th, 1989. She knelt before the safe, her knees pressing into decades-old hay dust, and dialed the combination. The lock clicked. The handle turned. The heavy door swung open. Inside were stacks of papers bundled with rubber bands, several leather portfolios, and a metal document box. Lauren pulled out the first portfolio and opened it. Stock certificates. Hundreds of them. Companies she recognized, IBM, General Electric, AT&T. Purchased in the 1960s and 70s. She flipped through them, her breath catching. Each certificate represented shares bought for pennies that were now worth. She grabbed her phone and searched the first one. IBM, 200 shares, purchased 1968 at $8 per share. Current price, $147. That was $29,400. From one certificate. There were dozens more. The metal box held municipal bonds, matured and uncashed. The rubber-banded papers were land deeds, small parcels scattered across 3 counties, purchased decades ago when land was cheap, now in areas that had developed significantly. Lauren's hands shook so badly she had to set down the papers. She pulled out her phone and called the estate attorney. Ms. Chun, it's Lauren Reeves. From the auction today. I have a question about assets that might not have been included in the estate valuation. What kind of assets? Stock certificates, bonds, property deeds, all in Uncle Jim's name, stored in a safe in the stable I purchased. Silence. Then, Ms. Reeves, I inventoried Mr. Holloway's estate personally. There were no financial instruments beyond his checking account and the property. Are you certain these are legitimate? They look legitimate. Old, but legitimate. Don't move anything. I'm sending someone tomorrow morning. If these are real and were omitted from probate, we'll need to reopen the estate assessment. Lauren spent the night in her car, parked beside the stable, unable to leave. She'd locked the hayloft door as best she could and wedged a board against it. Every sound made her jump. At dawn, the attorney arrived with a financial assessor. They climbed to the hayloft, the attorney huffing, the assessor silent and intense. Lauren watched them examine each certificate, each bond, each deed. These are real, the assessor finally said. The stocks alone. He tapped on his tablet, calculating. Conservatively, $1.4 million. The bonds, another $200,000. The land parcels need individual appraisal, but based on current county assessments, you're looking at an additional $800,000 to $1.2 million. The attorney removed his glasses. Ms. Reeves, this changes the estate distribution significantly. These assets should have been included in probate. But they weren't in the main house. They were in the stable, which I purchased, which you purchased as part of the estate auction, using your inheritance distribution. The legal question is whether these items were part of the estate or part of the property structure you bought. What's the difference? If they're estate assets, they get split 3 ways. If they're fixtures included with the building, they're yours alone. Lauren's stomach dropped. Vanessa and Todd will argue they're estate assets. They absolutely will. And frankly, Ms. Reeves, they might win. Jim's note sat on top, the real inheritance. He meant for me to have this, she said quietly. The note. A note isn't a legal document. I'm sorry. You'll need a lawyer. Lauren hired an attorney with money she didn't have, paying the retainer on a payment plan. Vanessa and Todd filed an emergency petition to freeze the assets and reopen probate. The local newspaper ran a story. Estate battle erupts over hidden fortune. Lauren continued working at the coffee shop, typing data between court dates. The eviction deadline passed. She moved into a $600 a month room in a stranger's house, her 12 boxes stacked in the corner. The hearing was set for 3 weeks out. In the meantime, the assessor completed his full valuation. Total value of the stable's contents, $2.7 million. Vanessa called the night before the hearing. Lauren, be reasonable. That money should be split equally. Uncle Jim didn't know what he had. He was probably senile when he hid it. The fair thing is to divide it. He wasn't senile. He was intentional. You're being selfish. We're family. Family, Lauren repeated. When did you last ask if I was okay? When did Todd check if I needed help? We're not your parents, Lauren. You made your choices, marrying Marcus, not finishing college, working low-wage jobs. That's on you. But this money? This is family money. And you don't get to keep it just because you got lucky. Lauren hung up. She pulled out Uncle Jim's note and read it again. You've always seen potential where others see problems. The courthouse was cold, the air conditioning too high. Lauren sat at the defendant's table in her only interview outfit, a blazer with a small stain on the sleeve she tried to hide with a scarf. Vanessa and Todd sat across the aisle with their lawyer, a man in a $2,000 suit. Your Honor, his opening statement began. This is a simple case of estate assets being improperly distributed. The decedent's financial holdings were hidden, likely due to confusion in his final years. The law is clear. All assets belong to the estate and must be divided equally among heirs. Lauren's attorney stood. Your Honor, the assets in question were stored in a building purchased separately at public auction. My client bought that property with her own funds, derived from her inheritance share. What she found inside is legally hers. The judge reviewed the documents. Ms. Reeves, when you bid on this stable, did you know about the safe? No, Your Honor. But you bid anyway. Yes. Why? Lauren hesitated. The truth sounded foolish, but it was all she had. Because it reminded me of visiting Uncle Jim as a kid. Because I remembered him being kind. Because everyone else saw a wreck, but I saw something worth saving. The judge was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. I'm going to ask you something, Ms. Reeves, and I want you to think carefully before answering. The judge leaned forward. If you'd known about the safe, would you have bid? Lauren met his eyes. Yes, Your Honor. Even if I'd known it was empty. Vanessa scoffed audibly. Her lawyer stood. Your Honor, that's irrelevant. The question isn't what my client's sister would have done hypothetically. The question is what the law requires. Sit down, counselor. I'll determine what's relevant. The judge turned back to Lauren. Why would you spend $3,000 on a collapsing building? Because Uncle Jim left me something. Not money, a choice. My siblings got to pick first. They chose the things that looked valuable. I chose the thing everyone laughed at because. Lauren's voice cracked. Because I'm used to being the one people laugh at. The divorce. The minimum wage jobs. Living paycheck to paycheck. I know what it's like to be dismissed. And I knew Uncle Jim knew that too. Your Honor, Vanessa's lawyer interrupted. This is a lovely story, but it doesn't change the legal reality that concealed assets must be distributed according to. I've read the law, counselor. I've also read the auction contract. The judge held up a paper. It states, and I quote, all items, contents, and fixtures within purchase structures become property of the buyer at time of sale. Ms. Reeves bought the building. The safe was inside the building. Legally, it's a fixture. A safe isn't a fixture like a built-in cabinet. It's a 200-pound commercial safe bolted to the 4 joists. That makes it a permanent installation. And according to this contract, permanent installations convey with the property. Vanessa stood up. This is ridiculous. Uncle Jim was clearly mentally incompetent. He had millions in a barn. The judge's expression hardened. Miss Chun, sit down, or I'll hold you in contempt. Your uncle's mental state is not in question here. His estate planning was reviewed by his attorney regularly until 3 months before his death, and he was found competent every time. What is in question is whether you have legal claim to assets found in a building you didn't purchase. And based on the auction contract, you don't. He looked at Lauren. Ms. Reeves, the assets found in the stable building are legally yours. However, I'm ordering a 60-day hold before you can access them. During that time, your siblings may appeal. If they don't, or if the appeal fails, the assets transfer to you free and clear. The gavel fell. Vanessa's face went purple. This is theft. We'll appeal. We'll take this all the way to, you do that, the judge said mildly. Court adjourned. Outside, Todd grabbed Lauren's arm. You don't deserve this. You know that, right? You've never worked for anything. You barely have a job. And now you get millions while you what? Lauren pulled free. While you drive your Lexus and live in your 4-bedroom house. While Vanessa vacations in Tuscany. I've been one emergency from homeless for 3 years. Where were you? We're not obligated to. No, you're not. And I'm not obligated to give you anything now. Lauren walked to her car, hands shaking but head high. The 60 days crept by. Lauren worked her shifts, slept in her rented room, and waited. Vanessa and Todd did appeal. The appellate court upheld the ruling in 43 days. On day 61, Lauren's attorney called. It's done. The assets are yours. I've arranged a meeting with a financial advisor to discuss. I need to do something first, Lauren said. She drove to the stable. The building looked just as dilapidated, but she saw it differently now. Not a wreck. A treasure chest. A gift from someone who'd understood her better than her own siblings. She climbed to the hayloft and sat beside the safe, now empty, its contents secured in a bank vault. She pulled out her phone and composed an email. To the Holloway Foundation, new. I want to establish a fund for women in crisis. Women facing eviction. Women leaving bad marriages. Women working 3 jobs and still failing. I want to cover first and last month's rent. Security deposits. Medical bills. The emergencies that push people over the edge. I want it named after Uncle Jim. How do I start? The financial advisor called it admirable but impractical. Lauren made it happen anyway. The James Holloway Emergency Fund launched 3 months later with an initial endowment of $500,000. It paid rent for 14 women in the first month alone. Lauren kept working, not at the coffee shop, but as the fund's director. Salary, $45,000 a year, more than she'd ever made. She bought a small house, nothing fancy, with 3 bedrooms and a yard. She furnished it slowly, carefully, choosing pieces she loved instead of whatever was cheapest. She renovated the stable. It took 8 months and $60,000, but when it was finished, the building was sound and beautiful. Original wood preserved, windows replaced, the hayloft converted to an office. She moved the fund's operations there. Vanessa and Todd stopped speaking to her entirely. On Christmas, she received a card from Vanessa's lawyer threatening litigation if Lauren ever mentioned them publicly. She filed it away and sent them nothing in return. One afternoon, a woman arrived at the stable office, young, exhausted, carrying a toddler. I heard you help with rent. I got evicted last week. I've been staying in my car. I have a job interview tomorrow, but I can't go because I don't have anywhere to leave my daughter, and I can't bring her, and I don't know what to do. Lauren recognized the look in her eyes. The same one she'd seen in her own mirror for years. What's your name? Jessica. Jessica, we can help with emergency housing. But first, when did you last eat? Yesterday. Breakfast. Lauren pulled out her phone. There's a diner 3 blocks from here. Go eat lunch. Order whatever you want. It's covered. Bring your daughter. When you're done, come back and we'll talk about housing, childcare, and getting you to that interview. I can't afford. It's covered. All of it. Go eat. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. What? Because someone gave me a chance once. And it changed everything. That evening, Lauren sat in the hayloft office, now warm and well lit, looking out over the property. The stable had been worth saving. So had she. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Jessica. I got the apartment. And the job. I start Monday. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Lauren smiled. She pulled out Uncle Jim's note, now framed on her desk, and read it one more time. Don't let them tell you what's valuable. She understood now. The money mattered. The security mattered. But what mattered most was knowing her worth when everyone else saw worthless. Being the person who chose the abandoned stable and found treasure. Not because she was lucky, but because she knew how to see. Outside, the sun set over the property. The stable stood solid against the sky, its windows glowing. Inside, files lined the shelves, applications from women who needed help, women who'd been dismissed and overlooked and counted out. Women like Lauren. She'd help them all. Not because she had millions now, but because she remembered having nothing. Because she'd lived in the space between desperation and hope, and she knew exactly what that space needed. A chance.